All right, 6 signs that your relationship with food is improving. You're looking for some proof, some evidence, I presume, that you're going the right direction with all of this healthy eating stuff. So I want to share with you today 6 of the things, the little indicators that I noticed on my journey that were little hopeful signs that, although I was far from perfect and it felt messy and very non-linear at times, admittedly, generally speaking, my relationship with food was getting healthier and healthier month to month, year to year. Meal of the day today, or snack of the day rather in this case, is a little fruit selection that I'll often do as a snack. So today, I vary up the fruit of course, but today I've got apple, orange, kiwi. I love the citrus fruits in winter, by the way. Look at these Majordays. These are going to be amazing. These are going to be so sweet and delicious. And today I've actually got some, don't usually, but some walnuts here, because I'm a little bit behind on my healthy fats today, so just looking to catch up. So I'm going to graze on this as we go. But the first sign that your relationship with food could be improving is that you're starting to realize what real hunger feels like. Because admittedly, when you're an overeater, you don't really give yourself the chance to get there and sit with hunger. You're used to eating at such a cadence, such a frequency, that you never actually allow yourself to get hungry. And in fact, you're so worried, if you're anything like I used to be, you were so worried about ever being hungry, such a scarcity around that you'd overeat as compensation because you're just so terrified of experiencing that. But for the first time in a long time, perhaps you're experiencing some of those conventional indicators that genuine physical hunger, the genuine requirement for nutrients and calories, energy, is being observed in your body, such as the hunger pangs, growling of the stomach. These are very common signs. For me, it's irritability, when I suddenly get temperamental and I can't actually put my finger on why. Like there's nothing actually wrong with my work career stuff. There's nothing actually wrong in my personal life. I've actually had a good day on paper. Like, what's wrong with me? Oh, here we go, it's hunger. Could be dehydration or a lack of sleep, but oh, okay, this is likely hunger. Another sign that you're physically hungry, as opposed to sort of more emotional hunger, is that the hunger builds up gradually. It doesn't sort of appear out of nowhere. That can tend to be the sort of impulsive, highly charged, emotional eating, but it gradually builds over time. So these were all little signs to me that, okay, I don't want to be physically hungry. If I get too hungry, I'm very likely to grab at something really artificial and calorific, so I don't like that. But boy, oh boy, it's nice to actually feel that out and know that I'm not stuffing myself so much that I'm never experiencing hunger, and therefore I'm never actually that close to that sort of margin or boundary to where I can actually eat an appropriate quantity to where I'm not too full, but I'm not going so hungry that it's not going to be healthy or sustainable to me. So yeah, that's a really big sign that your relationship with food is improving, especially if you're somebody that sort of there's a problem with self-diagnosis with all of this stuff, which is the elephant in the room. But if you'd raise your hand as, yeah, I'm a bit of an overeater, right? Well, yeah, if you're actually starting to experience some physical hunger now, I don't want to normalize that. I want to be very clear. But if you're actually getting some indicators that there's points where you're getting physically hungry and you're actually answering it with the right food, it's actually a really good sign that you're going the right direction with this stuff, I would say. Sign number 2 that your relationship with food is improving. This is going to be a nightmare because they've got all the seeds and the pips in. You're going on holiday. You're going on vacation next week. And for once, for the first time in a long time, your immediate thought isn't, oh, I can't wait to land and eat XYZ. I'm going to Italy next week. I can't wait for all the pizza and the pasta. And look, you wouldn't be human if you didn't admit that you weren't going to enjoy or think about enjoying when you go on a vacation some of those things, some of those local treats, cuisines, and indulgences. And that's not to say you need to be perfect with your diet around the clock, and that's what a healthy relationship with food necessarily looks like. That's not what I'm suggesting is the criteria for the perfect relationship with food necessarily. However, it's just nice to have the relief that for once, you're not thinking, can't wait to stuff my face. And you're actually thinking about that wonderful cathedral that you're going to check out, that wonderful museum that you're going to go to, the lovely beach that you're going to lounge on and jump, take a lovely dip in that ocean, and the great experiences, the quality time you're going to have with friends and loved ones, the strangers that you may meet on this little spontaneous adventure of yours. For once, it's not about the food. And rather, I think a realistic way to reframe this stuff is the food is a proverbial cherry on the cake, pardon the very obvious pun there. And, it's something that's part of the experience and you will indulge and you will enjoy. But just as a reflection, I'm not talking about, this is not a video about vacation eating nutrition strategy. That's not what I want to go into. But just having that moment of awareness that, wow, for the first time in years, I remember this, for the first time in years, thinking ahead to a trip and not being like, I'm going to immediately look what donuts and pastries I can find the moment I land. I don't know how much of this will resonate with many of you, but like this was a huge one for me. Taking those first couple of trips, going to Italy last year, and not sitting there before I was going or at the airport, like Googling like places that, like obviously I checked out places to eat because I wanted to find healthy plant-based options because that's my chosen sort of nutrition methodology, isn't it? But so some planning and research is always advisable, but I wasn't sitting there salivating, like, oh, I can't wait to eat this and this. Like the food was not a big part of the vacation is what I'm trying to say. And that's such a nice sign that your relationship with food, your thinking, and your feelings around food, I would say, are getting much, much healthier. This is probably the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the date. So we'll do the date taste test. By the way, you didn't see, but this orange, this is honestly one of the best oranges I've had in a couple of years. That was so sweet for an orange, so delicious. So let's do a little bit of the medjool now, shall we? That's actually pretty average. The rest of the fruit has been really good from this place I've started to find here, this lovely organic place. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's pretty average actually as medjool dates go. Anyway, sign number 3, your relationship with food is improving. When you get stressed, your immediate response is no longer grab, 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 I need food, but rather, whoa, I'm stressed. Just the ownership of the statement, or, oh, I'm stressed, I need to relax now. Food is not part of necessarily the solution to that, and you have knowledge of this. You have some awareness in the moment, the heat of the moment of this. Or rather, the place where I've got to now, and I'm not perfect with this, because I was a big emotional eater when I got stressed. It was just this highly charged, very frenzied, completely mindless, frankly, state where any stress, any overwhelm, and I was just up, I was in the kitchen, or I was at the vending machine, and I was like, give me something now, I need something now. And it really didn't involve that much conscious thought. I couldn't, half the times I reckon, I'm speaking very loosely here, I don't mean this particularly literally, I would say maybe half the times, who knows if that's correct, I wasn't studying myself that deliberately at the time, but about half the time I stress ate, I didn't even know that I was eating because of stress, that stress was necessarily the trigger, until I became aware of it and started analysing my behaviour and thinking, well, where am I going wrong with this whole weight loss thing? But yeah, so for me, it was just this automatic behavior because I'd been using food as a coping mechanism for my emotions for years, little known, I think, to me at the time. And so that was so deeply ingrained. It was so normal for my mind to experience stress and then go, oh, we usually, and this was all happening unconsciously, subconsciously, I suppose, largely at least. And then my mind going, well, hold on, we've experienced stress before. We know by association you often eat shortly after that, Ryan. Let's engage in that comforting behavior pattern again. We know that. That's familiar to us. Let's go and do that again. And so off I'd go to the shop, or off I'd go to the vending machine, or in the fridge I'd be, right? Pretty instantaneously at that first bout of stress. So when you get to the point where you can actually say to yourself, this coming back to my story, this is where I've largely gotten to myself, I'm not perfect, but in recent years is, when I feel stressed now, I just go, what do I do? What do I need to do to solve the stress? Which is obviously like the I'm not saying anything particularly profound here, but that's obviously the practical way to think about stress. It's like, what will actually solve it? Because eating Bourbon biscuits, as I used to do, or a whole pack of Oreos, that ain't doing nothing, is it, to actually solve the reason why I was stressed, the problem in my life that was causing me stress in the first place. But when you're in this highly charged state, when you are used to having food, or maybe it's another vice for you as a coping mechanism, you don't sit there and go, I'm stressed, I need to chill out, I'm stressed, how do I solve the stress? You don't do any of that pragmatic nonsense, right? That's what I thought of it at the time, nonsense. You don't do any of the useful pragmatic stuff. You don't problem solve in that way. But I think that's a really good sign for me anyway, that my relationship with food is improving. Is when I get stressed now, it's more, I'm stressed. Like, I can acknowledge it, I own it, I can identify it, and it all happens quite naturally. Like, it takes a lot of force and willpower at first, but I've been doing this for so long now, so many years, that I'm like, I'm stressed. Often I want to eat when I'm stressed. We ain't doing that today. That doesn't actually fix it. What else would help me relax that doesn't involve eating? What else would help me solve the problem that caused the stress in the first place? Sign number 4 that your relationship with food could be improving. And you'll note that I often say could be improving here. I'm not being too definitive about it because I'm just sharing the things that I've observed with my clients over the years and lots of my own personal sort of anecdotal observations with this subject. But what I would say is that relationship with food stuff is really largely now a modern day problem, or at least sort of the highly charged emotional eating that a lot of people would experience rather, that association with all of these artificial junk foods, which are a new age issue to us. I think study of relationship with food is an art, maybe as much as it is a science. And I wouldn't say that about nutrition, which I find to be much more objective and actionable with. I can cling to very hard and fast rules with nutrition. Relationship with food stuff to me is not that definitive, and I think there's a level of individualization with it that means that I don't want to speak definitively here. So I'm doing kind of a bit of sort of fence-sitting diplomacy here for about the best part of a minute now, but I really wanted to get that in at some point. I think that's an important caveat. Just sharing what I've observed. Some of these signs might not actually be helpful signs to you that your relationship with food is necessarily healthier or improving. And then, again, another elephant in the room is, what does a healthy relationship with food look like? But we're not addressing that one today. But here's number 4 anyway. You're at home and you suddenly realize, oh, I haven't thought about food in ages. It's a really nice feeling as well, because when you're at home, the kitchen's there, the triggers are there, you've got all the associations. You're used to thinking about food when you put Netflix on. You're used to maybe grazing at some food when you're preparing lunch for the kids. And so it's there, it's in your environment, but you're not thinking about it. When you're out the house, there's lots of distractions. Obviously, you might eat out the house too. That might have other triggers for you and that might involve other temptation. But generally, when you're out of the house, I find there's lots of distractions. There's lots of reasons as to why you wouldn't think necessarily about your own sort of nutrition or appetite for a couple of hours. I think it's another thing to be able to do that at home when there's all of these triggers around you, you're in a certain environment, especially if there's food in your, if you've already got clean food in your kitchen, it's maybe a different matter and this doesn't apply as much. Even then, I think I could make the argument, but I see you've got lots of little treats in the house and you're not even thinking about them when ordinarily you would, because there's so many triggers at home. I think that's a really good sign that you're making some improvements with this stuff. Sign number 5. This one is a bit tricky. This doesn't feel as tangible and as easy to monitor or measure, but I wanted to fit this in anyway because I think this is so important. You notice that you're saying no more than you used to. And you see why this one is hard, because it relies on your subjectivity. Unless you're like journaling all the times you say no when you used to say yes and you're keeping some kind of tally of that, you're not going to be able to measure this one as easily. And also it's tricky because the first time you really start caring and being very intentional with your food choices, you actually put them under a microscope to such a degree that you didn't before, because ignorance is bliss, right? You didn't really care or know that you should care, let's say, before. Your head was buried proverbially in the sand. And so you didn't really know better, let's say, to see all of your bad habits. Maybe now, the first time you place all your attention and energy and focus on fixing this stuff, you actually see the full extent of your bad habits. So it can be really hard to actually assess, hey, am I saying no more than I used to? You probably are, right? If you're going the right direction with this, on the scale you're dropping some weight. Not that the scale is necessarily the only sign that your relationship with food is improving, but it might feed into the idea that, hey, there's some progress being made with this food stuff. But yeah, you're watching the scale go down, you notice that your appetite is reducing. Well, I think it's probably a good sign that you are starting to say no more than you used to anyway. But that's if you have any epiphanies and any moments where you're maybe out and it would have been, let's say you're at a restaurant and it would have previously been a bit of a crossroads scenario for you. All your buddies are talking you into ordering the pizza, sharing the pizza with them, having a bottle of wine, having a couple of glasses of wine with them. Hey, should we order some wine for the table? And for the first time you say no. And you have this really cool epiphany where you're like, no, I don't need it. I don't want it. And look, don't get me wrong. By the way, this mic, sorry I keep fiddling, guys. This mic is doing my absolute head in. I'm actually picking up the wire for it today, so I won't have to wear this stupid looking thing. It's probably quite disguised with the black, but it's bloody annoying. Anyway, back to my point. You're at that crossroads, and for the first time you're like, no. And that's what I was going to say. The first couple of times you have to say no, there's probably more force and willpower involved. I don't want to make it sound like an effortless thing. Like, I don't want to patronize you with that. Like, it is hard at first. You're like, no, like, I do actually want the wine, Nicholas. Your best mate Nicholas, is that a common name anymore? Barbara, I do actually want the wine, but actually on this occasion, no, I don't think I should. I'm working on my stuff right now. It takes some intention, some willpower, some dedication at first, but you'll notice you start doing this over and over and it actually becomes your default behavior pattern. And it's pretty effortless to start saying no. And then your taste buds start to change. And, you start getting some results maybe on and off the scale that suggest that your health and fitness are improving. And it sort of just naturally incentivizes and motivates you. And then later on, it's very easy to be like, no, like when you say no, you genuinely don't want the thing. That's the point I'm trying to make. Whereas when you're a noob, when you're a beginner, it's kind of like, I do want the thing, but no, I can't do it. I need to set my boundary firm. The boundary is effortless after you've already sort of imposed it for a little while. I've wasted 2 minutes to try to get to that kind of more concise summary, but you catch my drift, right? So yeah, you observe that you get into those crossroads situations and you're starting to have all of these epiphanies about periods, about moments where actually you used to say yes a lot and give in a lot, and now there's a bit more strength and discipline about you. I think that's a pretty surefire sign. I know it's hard to measure and monitor, but it's a pretty surefire sign that your relationship with food is improving. Right, should we attempt the kiwi? Let's attempt the kiwi, folks. This is going to be another sort of projectile. Could be a lot of debris with this one here. Let's do a bit of the kiwi, and then we're going to get on to our last but certainly not least sign, number 6, that your relationship with food could be improving, as he checks his notes here conveniently. That's it. This is a good one. This is a good one. Stick with me. Let's do the taste test. Love it. I love my kiwis a little bit sour, a little bit sweet. Not so sour that there's no sweet. On the money. So it's only the dates that are a little bit disappointing here. Did you guys see me have a walnut? I don't know. That's a good walnut. Yeah. So, walnut's really good for omega-3 and 6, as you likely know anyway. Sign number 6, your relationship with food is improving. I promised you a good one. When you do choose to eat, when you do break plan and you choose to eat something slightly more indulgent, something more rich, a little treat that you might have used to have quite often in the past, it isn't quite as frenetic anymore. And don't get me wrong, this can take quite a while for folks to get to, admittedly. But it isn't quite so charged and frenetic and addictive anymore. It isn't and it doesn't trigger the proverbial slippery slope, excuse me. That walnut's too dry. It doesn't trigger that sort of... Here he goes, bear with me folks. Excuse me, that's much better. It doesn't trigger that sort of, I'm off plan now, that's my license to gorge, that's my license to just eat what I want because I've screwed up, right? That sort of one mistake equals failure thing that I'm always moaning to my clients about. You can't let that one slip be some kind of sign that you have this huge weakness and, you're still the old you after all your weight loss and hard work. You're still the old you. So just be very careful with that, I would suggest. But yeah, if you are noticing that when you actually go off plan now, and it still isn't a walk in the park, there's still some kind of, I do miss this pastry, this lovely baked good, this lovely donut, this bit of chocolate cake, whatever the old food habit of the past is. I do miss this, and yeah, there's a bit of me that wouldn't mind a bit more. But at the same time, no, I do actually look forward to getting back to my healthy food. And that's genuinely me nowadays. I'm always joking. When I have something like a baked good, I immediately just want to get back and eat fruit. Like cleanse the palate. I love fruit anyway, and it makes me feel healed. Not the correct term, but you know what I mean. It makes me feel whole again. It's like, that's a little reset. Again, not the right way. I'm not using necessarily the appropriate terminology here. I think I'm speaking very figuratively, but you catch my drift, right? It's just, I want my diet again. I want my healthy food again because I'm so used to that, because I've built that habit and I've started to really change how I think and feel about food to the extent that I really do largely, I'm not perfect, but I really do largely want to eat healthily. And I'm so used to eating healthily that feels familiar to me. That's now my new established behavior pattern. I've got all of my routines now around healthy food versus in the past I had a lot of routines around very, very unhealthy, artificial stuff. And when you eat something off plan, yeah, it's controlled, it's considered, you enjoy it, but you're like, I want to get back to this now. And this is a really big sign, I think, that your relationship with food is massively improving. So that's it. You can have that little treat and get back on plan quite easily without too much resistance after. It won't be like that every single time. There's still moments now where I'm like, I wouldn't mind a bit more of that deviation. But generally, I'm like, nope, give me the healthy stuff again. It's so much easier. I've been doing this for a long time. It's so much easier to get back to it. Anyway, I hope this helped you out. More resources in the description box down below. You can hire me as your personal coach to hold you accountable and give you guidance through every step of this journey, of your weight loss journey rather more specifically. And you can also there join my free mailing list for more tips and insights to your inbox. I'm sending about 2 to 3 emails a week. So it's no spam stuff, just more information like this, but this time to your email inbox in the written form. So check those out if you're interested. See you in the next one.